Hello, thank you for joining us for the next session of State of the Navy and Marine Corps titled Beyond Sea to Shore. I'm Jennifer Ladd, Managing Editor of Defense One. This conversation was recorded before the war with Iran began. It includes the commander of the 31st Marine Expeditionary Unit, which has since been deployed to the Middle East to support Operation Epic Fury. The conversation focuses specifically on the Indo-Pacific, where the Marine Corps has expanded from just focusing on projecting power from sea to land and is now preparing to operate across and between all domains. The discussion delves into readiness, modernization, and partnerships with other nations. We hope you find it insightful. Today, we'll be talking to the commanders of some of the units on the front lines of these changes: the 3rd Marine Littoral Regiment, the 12th Marine Littoral Regiment, and the 31st Marine Expeditionary Unit. Thank you all for being here today, gentlemen. Let's jump right in. And I wanted to start this off by having you introduce yourselves.
Yeah, I'm Colonel Gabe Diana. I'm the commanding officer of 3rd Marine Littoral Regiment. Chris Niedziocha, CO, 31st Marine Expeditionary Unit.
Hey, Jennifer, Colonel Richard Neikirk, CEO, 12th Marine Littoral Regiment. Really appreciate this opportunity.
Sure. Well, thank you all for being here. I really appreciate it. I wanted to start off by talking about some of the challenges in the Indo-Pacific. It's obviously a really large region. So, how do you guys see the challenges and how are you and your units addressing them as they pertain to you?
Well, I think one of the things about the threat is they always seem to be exceeding our expectations and projections. So they're modernizing faster, they're expanding faster, they're moving into areas that we thought were relatively free from competition at a pace that I think most people in the Western world are surprised by. So you're definitely going up against an A game adversary out here.
Hey, Jennifer, I'll just add, really appreciate that question just to set the context. 3rd Marine Division is the only purpose-built division in the Marine Corps, and it's purpose-built with 2 MLRs, 4 operations in the littoral, areas, along with 4th Marines and 3rd Battalion, 12th Marines, and 3rd Reconnaissance Battalion. But I think the way that 12th MLR at least really looks at this region is through the lens of our partnerships with the allies and partners out here, which really enable a lot of the work that we do.
Yeah, I would just say, for us, I mean, contested logistics, littoral mobility, is a key challenge for, I think, both of the MLRs at this point. But, back to what Rich was talking about, I mean, reliance on allies and partners. I mean, they bring capability, the Joint Force brings capability here that we're going to have to leverage to move and maneuver within the littoral at this point.
Well, so 3 of these units that you're the commanders of are designed specifically to be prepared for these conflicts or contingencies in the region. I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about how each of the units are kind of uniquely positioned. I know the MLRs are new, but also the 31st MU is different than the other MUs in the Marine Corps in that it's the continuously forward deployed MU. So if you could talk a little bit about that, maybe.
Especially when you consider that a CONUS MU has to get here right after a lengthy certification process. So a CONUS MU will spend 7, 8 months at sea, but anywhere from 30 to 45, maybe even upwards of 60 days of that is eaten in transit. As long as the amphibs have their ammo embarked, you're really on an M+5. So there's always residual readiness. I think in a 2 year period, the 31st MU probably spends about 9 months at sea in one form or fashion. So that's pretty remarkable. And then just the steaming distance to any crisis site. But yeah, the 31st MU is definitely a creature of the first island chain.
Jennifer, I would just add for 12th MLR, our last unit stood up right around a year ago, and happy to report we're actually probably exceeding the projection for where we thought we'd be with both capability and capacity. But the real advantage we have is living here day in and day out in the first island chain. Um, you know, Very closely aligned with our Japanese partners with the Joint Force. And the MLRs really are an extension of the MEFs. We're purpose-built, special purpose MAGTAVs with logistics capability, air control capability, ground combat capability. And so really leveraging that, using our unique maritime position here forward, I think is very valuable and beneficial to the Joint Force Commander and MES Commander.
I would just echo what Rich just said. I mean, we are part of a stand-in force as the MLR, and we are an extension. We support the Marine Air Ground Task Force. I think that all provides options to a Joint Force Commander at time of crisis, and as we lean into conflict.
Yeah, I think the partnership aspect's important, and 3MEF, the ability to actually have a habitual relationship with a partner. For a year-long period, we're partnered with one of the JGSDF's amphibious rapid deployment regiments, right? Right now, we're doing third ARDR. And after a year, you get to the point where you actually know the people, you do have a relationship, you'll engage in a meaningful way, probably 9 or 10 times in a year-long period. I've met my counterpart's wife, his parents, right? We've gone to social events both here in Okinawa and in Japan. And I think that's pretty unique outside of SOF to actually have a legitimate partner relationship where you can know people by their first name and actually develop trust and understand one another to the extent that you can. And then also our relationship with the Navy, with Fibron 11, right? That is a long-term thing that we have, that the 31st MEU with Amphibious Squadron 11.
I did want to talk about how you work with partners, but particularly the Japanese Self-Defense Force. Obviously, two of you are stationed in Okinawa, Japan, and then Colonel Diana, you're in Hawaii. But I know the MLR does a lot of operations and exercises in the larger region. So I think Iron Fist is going on right now too. So if you could just talk a little bit about that and how the partnership works, how the interoperability works with the Japanese Self-Defense Force especially. I know Japan is undergoing kind of like a big military expansion right now. So I'm wondering if that's changed the way you've worked together or you are working together.
Yeah, absolutely. I got up this morning on USS Tripoli, and the first person I saw was Colonel Takata, the CO of third ARDR, and they're actually going through their readiness certification with us as part of Iron Fist. And the Japanese, you grew up in the war on terror, you did a lot of expertise exchanges with partners, and you didn't always feel like you were getting as much out of it as the other side was. Here, especially at the company and battalion levels, you actually are exchanging and getting something out of a partner, and then a lot of respects is good or is better at you. We like to say that the company level, that they're interoperable, verging on interchangeable, that by the end of Iron Fist, we'll put a Japanese rifle company into our aircraft and fly them in next to ours and do a bilateral assault, that our ACVs and their AAVs will near simultaneously hit beaches together and go ashore. Got it. It's hard. Language is a challenge. C2 systems is always a challenge, but especially at the company version on battalion level, there's a really high and healthy level of interoperability there.
Yeah, and Jennifer, so the MEF's main partner is Western Army, the Japanese Western Army, and then underneath that, 12th MLR's main partner is the 8th Division, along with another division and brigade, and Lieutenant General Shirakawa is the CG of the 8th Division. And like Chris was mentioning, our units work together on a near daily basis. I was just with them over this past weekend, but really, I've been really impressed on the capabilities and growing, I think, capabilities and capacity of the Japanese Ground Self-Defense Force, specifically related to fires, logistics, and sensing. And really, how we employ 12th MLR is with bilateral, coordination centers that really enable us to share information and capabilities back and forth amongst one another.
Maybe now's a good time just to talk about some of the differences. I mean, third MLR, Marine Corps Base Hawaii, we've got basically force generate, and then right now, as part of the littoral rotation force, once a year we'll deploy to the Philippines for about 105 days. Our primary partner is 4th Marine Brigade at this point, but we don't have the day-to-day interaction that both the 31st MEU and 12th MLR has with their partner. But I think when you look at the rotation of Marine 06 level headquarters that come into the Philippines, there's almost constant interaction and engagement with our partners in the Philippines.
Okay.
Yeah, Jennifer, I should probably just add too. I mean, I know we focused on the Japanese there, but we have, units right now up on Korea training with them. And so many different kind of allies and partners that we work with across the theater.
Yeah, I think it's important we tend to partner with their premier formations and their main effort formations. You're also seeing people that are going to be around for a long time, right? So I know that the first ARDR CO I had, he's in one of these made man jobs that probably get promoted to flag rank. So that's the other thing, is there's a lot of there's like longevity in the people that you're interacting with too.
Yes. So I know, of course, you're doing work not just with the Japanese military, but with the Philippine military, the Korean military, probably some other militaries as well. But I think those are the three you're doing the most with. On that note, what are some of the exercises you guys have been doing, or maybe some that are coming up? And is there anything new about what you guys are going to be doing in these coming exercises and rotations? Balikatan, for example.
Yeah. We have three major exercises that we'll typically participate in: Iron Fist with the Japanese, Sanyang with the Koreans, and then Talisman Saber with the Australians. And Talisman Saber is always a little bit contentious because it takes the view out of the first island chain, but it's really high quality engagement, and you get to train in Australia, and you get to really air it out with these really long legs for your mission profiles, and you force the team to operate in a place that they haven't operated before, because like it or not, you develop a lot of training habits in Okinawa because just the whole operating environment is so familiar. So to break that's really helpful. And then our fourth generation cycle also has the potential to be operationalized. We discussed very seriously doing some of these events now more down towards the Philippines, someplace like Crow Valley. That could be something you'd see in the future.
Yeah, Jennifer, 12th MLR, very similarly, very busy out here, daily work. So upcoming is, Korean Marine Exchange up on the Korean Peninsula, Freedom Shield, also on the Korean Peninsula, and then supporting Valiant Shield. And we have a couple of different instantiations of a 3MEF exercise called Resolute Dragon that will be occurring over the summer and fall. But really, those are like the major exercises, and just really want to double down on the drumbeat out here in 3MEF is, hey, this is daily business, doing these kind of rehearsals and exercises with our partners and the rest of the joint force.
It is pretty impressive, the tempo that 3MEF keeps up. There is no rest, there's no downtime, and it's almost to the point where you're saturated. You really can't do any more, otherwise you're not going to be able to generate the readiness necessary, right? That's a real challenge.
I know the MLR has some pretty recently new capabilities. I'm not sure about the MEU, but I know with MADIS and Nemesis, and then this ground air task oriented radar. I don't know if you pronounce it Gator, but it seems like that would be the acronym. If you could talk a little bit about those, like, are those completely integrated, and are you using them now? How is that all working?
I'll take a first stab and then let Gabe back clean up for me. But I would just say truly impressive, and really appreciate the energy that the service has put into fielding a bunch of new capabilities. And experimentation is ongoing. The Marine Corps really has an iterative approach where they're fielding us equipment very quickly to use out here across the whole range. You certainly named off some of those kind of premier systems that I think we focus on. And and within the 3rd Marine Division, the commanding general really has this flexibility to move and surge equipment as he needs, really to support the exercises or priorities out here. But I'll let Gabe talk to how exactly it's going with some of those exquisite pieces of gear that you mentioned. But yeah, it's really great for our Marines just to have their hands on this like latest tech.
I would just say, for me, as a career infantry officer, looking what our littoral anti-air battalions bring to the fight with some of those unique capabilities. You hit the Gator radar, the Tipsy 80, really enabling our ability to support air command and control for both offensive and defensive capabilities. It allows us to conduct sector area defense command, and then when you team that with the MADIS, really one of the systems that allow us to counter Group 3 UAS. That's a very high demand capability, by the Joint Force at this point.
Yeah, I've always said that the layouts to air defense, the counter UAS, the counter cruise missile, that's one of the key capability gaps. But it's all, I feel like the whole department's found religion on that issue, and for once you can really see that everybody's behind this thing, and the pace at which new gear is being fielded is pretty impressive. So you're always in this amateur mode, dealing with minimum viable product, trying to figure out how to implement it. But if I had to, same thing, I don't get quite the call on the first new piece of gear that the littoral regiments do. But if I had to just describe the theme of what's being fielded, it's range, precision, autonomy, right? And I would say assured command and control. That's what a lot of the gear that you're seeing fits in one of those bins.
Yeah, and Jennifer, just real quick on that Nemesis, one of the exciting things I think for the service, certainly for the MLRs, is that's really enabled us to project power from the landward domain forward into the maritime space, which before really was in the realm of our aircraft and our Marine air wings. And now you bring that into the ground combat element formation as well, which really just adds another dimension.
Yeah, for 5 years now, the land service has been doing cheetah flips to figure out how they can contribute to what's clearly going to be an aerospace and maritime campaign. If we have to do this, and I just go back to Wayne Hughes' fleet tactics, right? Fighting is the landward component of the fleet, when that really means you win the fight for information, then shoot first effectively. That's really, if you had to sum up the Marine Corps' modernization effort in a couple sentences, I think that's how you describe it.
Sure. So as you mentioned, there's counter UAS and then the drones that you guys have too to bring to the fight. I know Indo-Pacific Command is AI-enabled headquarters and has been for about a year and some change. And the DoD is pushing AI throughout the force. I was wondering if that's something, autonomy and AI, is that something you guys are working with now or looking to incorporate? And how is that working for your units?
I'll take a first stab real
Yeah.
quick, but I mean, look, I think everyone across the Department of War is utilizing AI to try to streamline processes and improve tempo and speed and efficiency. We're really excited with the fielding of some of the UAS capabilities, especially some of the work the Marine Corps Attack Drone Team has led, and I think all of our units have really gained from that, and we're all well positioned and growing in capability to really mainline and bring those into our formations.
Yeah, there's no battleship admirals or horse cavalry officers out here resisting this, right? Everybody is receptive and absorbing it at the speed at which it's being pushed down. So there's definitely a learning. How do you do it? What is it good for? Where does it stand up? Where does it fall down? And I also feel like it's getting implemented first. That Indo-PACOM is truly the thought leader on this one and setting the pace, but it's coming down fast. Yeah, there's no, believe me, there's no resistance to any of that. If you give me a way to make this almost unsolvable problem easier, we're going to take it.
It would have taken thousands of staff hours to be able to go through the reports, and as really all three, MAGCAF enablers, Joint Force enablers here. I mean, to be able to parse and pull in relevant data and information very quickly to inform commander decision making. We've certainly began to leverage AI to do that, and all that's doing for us is increasing, operational tempo and our ability to support a MAGTAF commander, Joint Force commander. And then, anything administratively has allowed us to save staff hours also, here. So we're just at the tip, I think. And, as Chris said, there's no naysayers out here. We'll continue to leverage and learn and adapt, with AI.
Sort of pivoting a little bit to a different topic, it's obvious that one of the big challenges in this theater is the tyranny of distance, as they say, the vast size, but also just the sheer amount of water. It's a logistics problem, and I'm wondering how you guys are overcoming that right now, what you hope to see in the future to help you continue to overcome it, and then just, the issues that exist there with getting people and things to and from some of these remote places.
Well, having your own ships helps, right? I can say that, right? I don't mind, but having access to them and mobility and having things. But you're seeing a lot of prepo. You're seeing a lot of experimentation to sort of, we call it the last littoral mile distribution systems, like the tactical resupply UAS or the autonomous low profile vessel, or repurposing the ship's ribs to do littoral resupply. There's a lot of emphasis on prepo and being there ahead of time and seeding the first island chain with supplies and stockage and stores of things. But yeah, I think that the answer is you always need more of everything. We don't have enough. And then it's going to be contested. Now, you can question whether or not it's going to fall below their targeting cut line or not, because it's really hard to ignore the the Virginia class submarine or the Arleigh Burke destroyer to get the right the LSM. But being contested is going to be a real challenge as well.
Yeah, I think, for me, I've got I think one of the harder challenges here, moving forward from Marine Corps Base Hawaii forward into the first island chain as part of a stand-in force. But, as Chris stated, I mean, pre-position is one of them. We've got, McPip and Phil, forward for us. We're looking at forward staging. And then there's a piece of scalable options, here. At time of crisis, I don't know if I'm going to have the opportunity to take everything, but if I've got scalable options that can fly in on this pre-position or forward stage equipment, I can provide a MAGTF commander an immediate option. So that's some of the stuff that we're looking, at right now.
Yeah, Jennifer, I would just add, I think 12th MLR probably has a little easier, advantage just because of our forward presence here out in Okinawa. We also certainly utilizing heavily some of these kind of semi-autonomous or autonomous systems, that Chris mentioned, the tactical resupply UASs and autonomous low-profile vessels to move goods and equipment through the air and water. And again, I think this is really a part where it's key, the network of allies and partners there that we have that really help enable operations and that we all contribute to together as in seeking just a free and open Indo-Pacific out here.
That's one of the exciting things, though, is because, TruAS and ALPV are minimum viable products. They're experimental systems. And you can already see the value and the potential. And you just think, I remember the very first small UAS, the Dragon Eye, it wasn't really good for anything besides you could see it and touch it and realize it. Now you've got the Puma, the Raven, the Jump 20X, the Aeroson, the VBAT, right? Really capable systems. You can imagine watching these things have the same rapid maturation and be fielded. And then, you just got to keep these things at a simmer and then you bring them to boil. I can imagine a world where you have 200 ALPVs at sea at a given time. That kind of becomes your hedge, so there's a lot of room for creativity. And I hate to say this, I'm a company man, I got it, but I'm really impressed with the Marine Corps' ability to think differently and think hard about things and adopt new ideas and push really hard, right? We've broken a lot of institutional China to get where we are, but it's starting to show results.
But
Well,
I think it's still all underscored in a maneuver warfare philosophy.
That's right.
It's still a combined arms philosophy. So although we're making movements with some of this modernization, it's still foundational back to the things that have made us special, as a Marine Corps.
I was going to ask also, you've kind of mentioned it already a little bit, but any lessons learned or lessons that you're sort of gleaning from operations in other theaters, not necessarily your particular units, but like operations in other theaters with the U.S. military, even Ukraine. So Ukraine, Middle East, the Caribbean. Are there things that are coming out of those operations that you're able to like incorporate here into your units in the Indo-Pacific?
Yeah, I think the most important thing, because whatever's going to happen, it's highly unlikely we're going to fight in Ukraine and fight the Russians anytime in the near future. Now I say that, right? You always be careful what you say. But what I think the most important lesson is the rapid pace of adaptation, and the side that learns faster is the side that carves out the advantage. I don't think that our science is science. I heard somebody at DARPA say this. Our science is their science. So, but the ability to learn faster, to sense that something in the battlefield's changed, and then to do something about it, and then to implement or operationalize these capabilities is probably the most important trait that a modern military can have. And it's hard. It's hard.
Yeah, I think on the adaptation, I mean, at least what we were seeing with Ukraine was any technique that was successful, you had about a shelf life of anywhere from 2 to 4 weeks. So, I mean, there's a premium on adaptation. Here that all goes back to education, all goes back to critical thinking, and artfully, approaching these problems.
Yeah, which is, remember the counter ID fight, that wasn't too different, that you could watch. The more armor you would put, that was the size of the net explosive weight, and IED would match. And they were very efficient, right? It wouldn't be any much bigger than what you needed to breach the hull of whatever they were going after. Remember, you'd put your countermeasure there, and they would start to bury them 10 feet out further. Yeah, so that's real.
Yeah, and Jennifer, I would just mention quickly, I think the Houthis are a great case study for us, right? Utilizing kind of key maritime terrain to impose cost and exert some measure of sea denial, as they work to try to close kill chain. So certainly not a perfect example, but one that we really kind of watch closely for the impact that you can have.
One thing that I'm curious about is how your units work together, or maybe not all three at once, but especially the 31st MU and the 12th MLR. Is there some integration going on there? And maybe the 3rd MLR is also working together with you pretty closely? Or, I'm not sure. How does that all work?
In vague terms, right? We've got a new piece of gear that's being fielded, and his Marines have the expertise and are training hours to make sure that we can get this thing out onto the forward edges quickly as possible. I can actually see Rich's headquarters from mine, right? The uncomfortable truth is we are talking about the pace of operations out here in Third Meth is you don't have a lot of white space. That's kind of general military term for free time. You don't have a lot of white space to come up with great ideas. So we're always on the margins looking for opportunities to work together. But yeah, I definitely think we're probably right about the time where it's time we should really think about embarking these littoral capabilities and putting them out on the amphibs, start to use the littoral maneuver bridging solutions. It's time, right?
Yeah, Jennifer, I would just say, I mean, I think your audience would probably be surprised to find out how deep our information exchanges and exchanges of subject matter experts, deep relationships between those of us here in Oki, maybe even deeper though between the two MLRs, between here and Hawaii. And so certainly 3rd MLR being the first MLR to come along, they have, come out here. We are continually working together, training together. We probably talk every single day, and the same throughout our formation. So I think it's very, very tightly integrated as we're all focused on the same challenges and concerns out here.
I mean, I think what it's every other week we're on the hook with 12th MLR to exchange best practices here and share learning. And then, although I'm not working closely with the 31st Marine Expeditionary Unit, all within the last 2 weeks, we've had the Marine Rotational Force Darwin come through on the road show, another '06 level Marine Airborne Task Force headquarters that deploys forward. We've had both of the West Coast Marine Expeditionary Units out there, all looking at how we can mutually support each other while we're forward in the first island chain.
It seems like there's been some joint force integration too. I think at least some of y'all have been working with Army units, like one of the multi-domain task forces, maybe.
Yeah, Jennifer. I mean, I think we could probably all go down the list,
Yeah.
but I mean, probably every joint partner across it, from submarines to space and cyber, you probably find each of our formations working very, very closely with.
Yeah, it's refreshing how little service parochialism there is out here. I think the overall view is that there's going to be more than enough war to go around, and everybody just wants to pick up a shovel and start to dig. So yeah, our experience with SOCPAC and PAC-AF has been pushing on an open door. Hey, we have things we want to do. They have things they want to do. And some of the just '06 to '06 level things we've been able to pull together and push has been pretty eye-opening.
I think everybody understands that this is going to be a joint fight, and that we all bring certain capabilities, and we need to figure out now how we mutually support and complement each other's capabilities.
Now, I'm curious. I knew that in the past year or two, the aggression from China in particular has really ramped up in the region, at least against some of the other countries, not necessarily the United States, but the Philippines or Taiwan. And that's part of why Japan is expanding their military, actually. So I was wondering if any interactions that you all have had with China or with anyone else have changed over the past couple of years. Have those become more aggressive? And have you seen more interactions that you wouldn't have seen in the past, or is it just kind of the same as it's been?
I can tell you that all of our interactions have been safe and professional, but they are certainly doing a lot more and things that look a lot more like mission rehearsal exercises than what you've typically seen. So just the scale and the tempo and the pace of what the threat's doing is eye-opening.
Well, just in a general sense, as we look forward into 2026, what are some of the things that we can expect to see coming out of the Indo-Pacific for the Marine Corps, at least for your units, for the MLRs, the 31st MU? What can we expect to see, and what should we look for? What's coming up this year that you're looking ahead to?
Specific to 12th MLR, look, you should expect to see, significant and continued experimentation. As we already mentioned, our dance card is really full of opportunities to train and exercise, and I think really deeper integration with our allies and partners out here in the Pacific. And then each of the three units, sitting here also always stands ready, for any kind of crisis response, that might come up.
Yeah, we'll just continue to reap the benefit of service level investments in, again, in range, precision, autonomy, and shared command and control.
Now, as far as force design or force modernization in general, obviously the Marine Littoral Regiment is kind of what people think of when they think of force design, but it's just a small piece of the overall picture. Can you talk about where you are with modernization? Like, I know that third MLR has been an MLR for a couple of years now. The 12th MLR is a little bit younger as an MLR. And then the 31st MU, of course, has been there for quite a while. But how have the changes that have been going on in this theater for the past several years, what's the status of those? Are we done? Are we ready? Are we still transforming? How's that going?
Yeah, well, one, it's no longer Force Design 2030. It's just
Yeah.
referred to as modernization because it's never going to be done because you're on this treadmill with the adversary. And I worked at McWill in, I think in 21, and there was a lot of things that were just pictures on slides, and they're being fielded now, whether it's the LRUSV or MRIC, the medium range intercept capability, or the MADIS. That it's you're the gear is starting to show up and it's starting to become part of the formation, and it's actually a real ready now capability, which, if you know anything about how military acquisitions works, that's nothing short of remarkable.
Yeah, Jennifer, I would first of all just to say, we're the younger MLR, but also the better looking one. Um,
Interesting.
yeah, I just want to, yeah, I mean, I think the MLRs, rightly as you said, a very small piece of force design, although maybe what folks think of, and and I think what you're seeing now, as Chris just well said, is just the realization of a lot of these capabilities and capacity, and that's what's exciting. I think both within the service and the joint force, and also with our allies and partners as we get to exercise with them, is really seeing the fruits of all these years of hard work come to fruition.
I think we're learning. So you have all of this capability that comes together, and as you learn how to integrate, these different capabilities into a larger MAGTF or joint force construct. I mean, we're adapting as we're learning. So, I mean, to Chris's point, I mean, it's constant innovation, adaptation out here as we learn. As part of a MAGTF and part of the larger joint force, and as we work with with our allies and partners. So it's not static. We're moving and we're learning.
That's right.
All right. Well, I don't have any more questions, but I did want to give you the opportunity if there was anything else that you wanted to add before we wrap up here.
Yeah, I would just say first of all, hey Jennifer, thanks so much just for this opportunity for each of us to tell a little bit of our stories. Certainly a really exciting time out here in the First Island chain, and really excited for what this year is going to hold and bring, and also just that 12th MLR, part of the 3rd Marine Littoral Division out here, really stand ready, for whatever the future might hold.
Yeah. Yeah, I would just say how hard this has been, right? Modernization and experimentation, which really means a lot of low-level failures, but even in every failure, there's usually a lot of success, and just the tremendous amount of work and effort that our Marines and sailors put forth every day to make this stuff work. Just the immense amount of gratitude I have for people that we get to stand alongside and work with that make all this stuff happen.
Yeah, I'll echo what Chris says. I mean, our Marines are incredible. And I mean, you want to talk about folks who, can take this new technology and figure out the most artful way to employ it. It's the young Marines and sailors that we have within our formation. So we're well postured to enter FY 26-27 and really begin to integrate these new capabilities into a warfighting concept.
Thank you so much. That wraps up our time this afternoon. I really appreciate you guys sharing your time and insights with us. And to our audience, thank you for joining us today. Up next, my colleague Lauren Williams will be talking to the Marine Corps Warfighting Lab about the future of marine technology. See you next time.